colors bad. The media was, well, the media had colors unlike never seen before.
Mysterious colors. I didn't see that.
I think it was a thing of like.
Unorthodox reactions, unorthodox intro. Welcome back, guys.
Welcome back to another, you guessed it, reaction. We are Unorthodox Reactors, and today we are reacting to
Overly Sarcastic Productions. We are back with part 2 of the H.P. Lovecraft story summaries or recaps.
Recap, summary, same thing. Same
Semantics.
Same ballpark.
But
we're only
without
gonna
further ado,
we're only gonna recap or summarize one.
I'm sure they'll find that out eventually. Let's get right into it.
You give them such a weird look, don't you? It's like, well, welcome to my van.
Cunning.
No, it's like,
let's get right into it.
Invited to my van.
It's the mansion. Freaking North left of the dramatic. Look how creepy he is. Like, he instantly just thought of van. What's wrong with you?
Van for grown-ups. Over the age of 14.
Cool Air.
Cool Air was written while hippopotamus Lovecraft was living in New York City, and consequently takes place in a crowded apartment building full of immigrants, every element of which the narrator hates. Even worse, one night something gross starts leaking through his ceiling, and the landlady explains a reclusive and mysterious doctor.
Wasn't it in these other books? She was like, she discovered that whites were the heroes and everything else was like, bad.
Homebound due to a lasting illness, lives in the apartment above him and must have spilled one of his chemicals. The knowledge that his upstairs neighbor is a doctor becomes relevant when our narrator randomly has a heart attack one day and scoots upstairs for some pro bono medical attention. He finds that his neighbor, Dr. Munoz, is a very tidy and well-groomed dude, who our narrator judges as being of superior blood and breeding, but he keeps his apartment really cold for some reason and also comes across as inexplicably creepy, talking the whole time he's treating our narrator, but seemingly never pausing for breath. Place your bets now, folks. Anyway, Munoz tells the narrator not to be too down about his poor health, since modern science is incredible and can sustain a human body almost indefinitely. He himself has had a complex bouquet of medical issues for the past 18 years, which is why he keeps his apartment so cold and rarely leaves. Fun fact, this story was written only a few years after air conditioning began to become a widespread phenomenon in major US cities, which is probably why Munoz takes the time to explain how exactly his cooling system works and also why Hates Progress Lovecraft is so scared of it. Anyway, the narrator likes having such interesting company and routinely returns for visits and conversation, though he does notice that the doctor's health continues to deteriorate, and he does increasingly frantic modifications to the AC in order to compensate. He winds up looking so creepy that he gives a hardened war veteran a seizure just by looking at him. Basically, homeboy's face is jacked. Then one warm night mid-October, the air conditioner breaks, and the doctor freaks out and locks himself in the bathroom while he sends the narrator out to bring him as much ice as he can manage, as well as arrange for repairs to the air pump. The narrator subcontracts a dude to keep—
not vampire then.
No.
What creature likes the cold? A salamander?
What were the options, mate?
I didn't look. I was trying to guess.
The ice coming while he runs off to find repair people, but when he returns to the house, it's in total chaos. Apparently, the ice guy got curious and looked into the bathroom, then ran screaming from the building. Upon investigation, a trail of God knows what leads from the bathtub to the writing desk and then dead ends in a pile of something horrible on the couch. It's so horrible, the narrator doesn't even want to describe it, attempting to preserve the horror of the unknown, even though at this point we all know it's the doctor. Anyway, he wrote out a last confession about how he's been dead for 18 years and staved off decay through the cold and a lot of chemicals, but now thanks to the failure of modern technology, death has finally come for him.
Zombie?
Yay! At this point, most of us learn the basics of the electromagnetic spectrum somewhere in middle school. You got that little zone of visible light, and then a huge amount of radiation our eyes can't perceive, from gamma rays up through radio waves. Since we can only see such a thin slice of the spectrum, our concept of color is very limited compared to the full spectrum of light, but it's kind of what we're stuck with. But if you told Lovecraft about the wide spectrum of light humans can't see, he'd get a funny look on his face, say something like, "You mean there exist colors that man has never seen? What might they be capable of?" and go write The Color Out of Space, a story about a color of demonstrably visible light that is nonetheless nowhere on the visible spectrum. This is what happens when you don't have the constitution for math. Anyway, the narrator of The Color Out of Space is a surveyor examining an area in the middle of nowhere, Massachusetts, because they're planning on diverting a reservoir.
I think this is a new book.
Yeah. The title literally came up.
No, it didn't.
It did.
You're lying.
That's why I said cool color. What's wrong? Pay attention,
You
man.
did not say cool colors. No, you did
listening.
not. I was listening, bro. It must have been mad quick.
It is quick. All of this is quick. That's why I have to pay attention. They've already concluded his story. He friggin' finds out he's some type of, I don't know, zombie, I guess.
Nothing came up.
And he died. Just give me this, man.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh my god.
Color Out of Space. Now you give us a moment, because now we have to find where we left off. Frick's sakes.
During his meanderings,
There
he
we
comes
go.
to an area referred to as a blasted heath. It almost looks like it was burned, but nothing ever grew back. The trees around the edges are sick and rotten.
My eyes don't work.
Cool color.
How did I not see? That's so bright. My eyes don't work.
Colors, bruh.
The plants are all growing weird, there's an inexplicably creepy well in the middle, and the narrator wisely decides to head back to town and prompt some NPCs to fill him in on the regional lore. Conveniently, the area has a local old crazy person, always a goldmine of information in a Lovecraft story. This one named Amy Pierce, who's more than happy to regale him with colorful tales of horror. So the story begins with a meteorite crash
pun
landing by the
intended.
well in the otherwise sedate and charming forest estate of one Nahum Gardner, a friendly farmer with an idyllically charming family. Some folks from the nearby Miskatonic University swing by to examine the meteorite and are surprised at its small size. Nahum says it's shrunk since it landed, and also it glows in the dark and hasn't cooled down since the impact. The Miskatonic folks attempt to break off some samples, but find the meteorite is soft like plastic and gouges rather than being chipped. They take it away for tests, then come back for more because the material is reacting very strangely to everything they do to it, and also vanished completely overnight. As they carve out another chunk, they hit a little bubble in the rock. It's a small embedded glob with a mysterious color, unlike any seen on Earth, and when they hit it with a hammer, it pops and disappears. The next day, they come back for more meteor, but find it's completely vanished. A storm blew in overnight and struck the rock with lightning over half a dozen times, and apparently that made it stop existing. Nahum is of course an instant celebrity on account of the magic rock, and as a bonus, all his crops are growing in really big and glossy. But when the time comes to harvest them, Nahum finds they're all completely inedible. They've got a nasty aftertaste, unlike any seen on Earth, and they have to scrap the whole crop. The animals around the farm also start growing weird. Nahum's family is on edge, and everyone's basically avoiding the farm with the quiet understanding that whatever the meteor did to it wasn't good. All the trees start blooming in mysterious colors, unlike any seen, and they
If he was smart, he would have sold his crop for like so much.
Yeah, but he didn't know that was gonna happen, did he?
I mean, he shouldn't have tasted it and got rid of it.
What do you mean? Of course he had to taste it. You need to see what the produce was like.
Hey,
Do you even know anything about
you just
farming?
sell everything, and then if they're not happy with the product, it's too late.
That's not how that works.
It is.
It is, but that's not how that works.
Exactly.
Because once that happens, then his reputation gets damaged, and then
Yeah, but
even
he's
if he
made too
does
much
manage,
money.
okay, I'm not
They seem
arguing
to
about
move on their
this.
own without any wind. The Gardner family basically holes up in the farm and has a collective silent nervous breakdown.
If you listen
Nobody's
to
even
him, you're
surprised when
basically
Mrs. Gardner
stupid.
goes crazy and gets locked in the attic, and also starts glowing in the dark. Just move away! All the plants in the area start turning gray and disintegrating, and though Pierce warns the Gardners that the well water started tasting suspicious, they keep drinking it anyway. Then one of the kids goes crazy and starts screaming about colors in the well, unlike any, and gets locked in the attic too. Then the crazy kid dies somehow, and the youngest kid vanishes when going out to get well water one night. After 2 weeks of radio silence, Pierce finally works up the nerve to see how Nahum's doing and finds him ill and delirious and very much alone. Pierce goes to check in on the wife and finds something indescribably horrifying curled up in the corner, leaking mysterious colors unlike any seen on Earth, and writes her off as pretty thoroughly dead. When he heads downstairs, he hears some pretty disgusting noises, plus a sploosh from the well outside. He also notices the house glows in the dark now, and finds a very disintegrating Nahum
Mysterious
who's dragging himself
colours
to the base
unlike
of the
any.
stairs for some last-minute exposition. He explains that mysterious color, etc., is alive and living in the well, and is sucking the life out of everything around it. It came out of the meteor, those weird color globs were probably seeds, and they've been feeding on the family and their farm as they grew. Anyway, Nahum dies, and Pierce gets the heck out of there to report the deaths. He returns with some investigators, they investigate the well, and find a whole lot of skeletons, including the 2 missing children, plus some weird spongy junk at the bottom, unlike any seen on. And then everything starts freaking out. The horses freak out, the trees freak out, everything starts glowing, and the crew wisely decide to vacate the area before anything else happens. As they exit the glow radius, they see a lot of mysterious colors, unlike any, erupting out of the well, and then the entire area lights up and the light blasts into space, leaving nothing but the blasted heat. But Pierce reveals one final scrap of horror. As the light left, he saw one weaker blob of light try and fail to escape the well before falling back in. It's still down there, which is why he's so spooked, and also so glad the area will soon be entirely underwater. Narrator guy, thoroughly creeped out, decides to never drink the water from this reservoir, and also briefly contemplates if Pierce is still being affected by the horrible color, and whether that would explain why he's never even left the area.
Okay, I see this.
Interesting. What did you take away from that then?
The water's bad. The meteor was. Well, the meteor had colors unlike never seen before.
Mysterious colors, unlike any seen on Earth.
I think it was a thing of like the unknown. That's what the meteor was. It was unknown, and it turns out that it was feeding on them. So why did it let the crops grow? Why did it let the apples grow so delicious or look so bright and what?
I'm guessing it was
If it was feeding off it though.
no, it was feeding off
Oh.
the life of the humans, and I'm guessing it kind of because it must have melted into the soil, so I'm guessing it kind of whatever it's feeding, like the residues probably like gets absorbed by the soil because it's still technically like liquidy. So,
Yeah. That was a fair story. I think if I read that, I would have lost interest.
Not read. I would not read. I don't think I'd be able to get past all of that.
I would have probably lost interest.
Sounds like a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
If there's one thing Lovecraft hates more than not white people, it's the crushing existential terror he feels every time he leaves the house. If there's one thing he hates slightly less, it's low-class white people. This story is narratorless and takes place entirely in the rural Massachusetts town of Dunwich, an old town that smells bad and is generally creepy and off-putting. The story begins when Wilbur Whately is born on February 2nd, 1913 to Lavinia Whately, an albino, deformed, inbred woman who likes wandering the hills and hanging out in creepy stone circles. Her father is Old Whately, sometimes referred to as Wizard Whately due to his large collection of creepy occult books. As for who Wilbur's father is, well, that's not exactly clear, and Old Whately is being ominously cryptic about the whole thing. But this is Lovecraft cryptic, so it doesn't take a genius to put together from his mutterings that Wilbur's dad is something named Yog-Sothoth. Anyway, shortly after Wilbur is born, the Whateleys board up one of the sheds and also start buying a lot of cows, although oddly they never seem to have a lot of cows, and the ones they do have look really anemic and seem to have weird marks on their necks. Alright, place your bets everyone. So Wilbur grows preternaturally fast and can talk and seem to have weird marks on their necks.
So you wanted to see it, I guess.
Zombie.
Place your bets, everyone. So Wilbur grows preternaturally fast and can talk and walk at 11 months old, but he's also super ugly and goat-looking and really neurotic about never being seen naked. Also, dogs hate him, so you know he's evil. So Old Whately keeps doing house repairs and at one point builds a big ramp up to the second floor from the outside. This is also around the same time that locked shed gets opened. Now, the story pretends like this is a mystery, but we've all put together that there's something unspeakable in the shed and Whately relocated it to the house. Got it? Good, moving on. So now the shed is empty except for a horrible smell. Wilbur is 4 but looks 10 and is taken to carrying a gun to shoot any and all dogs that randomly attack him during his daily goings-on. In case you were wondering if you were supposed to like him. Also, people keep hearing mysterious sounds coming from the sealed-up second floor of the Whately house. You know, where they put the horrible thing from the shed. What a mystery this is. Anyway, twice yearly, Wilbur and Lavinia do weird rituals on one of the nearby hills with a stone circle. Wilbur and Old Whately continue to remodel the house, by which I mean they knock out every wall on the second floor, clearly because the horrible whatever is growing bigger. And then Old Whately has an attack of some kind and dies, but not before expositing in the longest death monologue ever about how Wilbur will need to be careful to take care of the thing in the house, and that then he'll be able to open up the gates to Yog-Sothoth with the chant you'll find on page 751 of your textbook. Anyway, he dies, Wilbur continues to grow hella fast, and Lavinia is actually getting scared of him now. She vanishes one Halloween, probably because of the giant horrible monster in the Whately house, just a guess obviously, and Wilbur relocates all his stuff into the shed and knocks out all the remaining walls in the house for reasons I can't possibly fathom. Anyway, Wilbur, who now looks fully adult and is about 10 feet tall, seems to be getting a little desperate. See, he has a copy of the Necronomicon, but it's damaged and incomplete, and is in fact missing the crucial page 751. So he starts shopping around nearby universities trying to locate an undamaged copy. When he heads to Miskatonic University, the librarian Dr. Armitage happens to look over his shoulder while he's examining the page and notices a lot of conveniently expositional lore about the old ones and how they exist in the spaces between reality, and that this Yog-Sothoth character is the key and the guardian of the gate, and can bring the old ones out of the spaces between and into reality again. Armitage is very creeped out, and when Wilbur asks to take the book with him, Armitage refuses and also warns all the other universities in the area to turn him away. Armitage immediately starts researching.
Friggin', if every friggin' people that villains go to are this astute, the movies would never even need to be that long. It's like 100%. All they have to look is like what they're looking at, the smile, the creepy, the look. They're like, yeah, don't give him anything. Bro, don't let him have what he wants.
I watched the thing and they were like, someone said in the comments, yeah, if it was me, I would have called up like, yeah, I'm not working, and then they'd have like, why, you scared? And he's like, yeah. And it's like, roll credits. It's like roll credits. That's the movie right there. Roll credits. Yep, that's the end of the movie. Thank you for coming.
Wilbur and the old ones, and while he's at that, an increasingly desperate Wilbur breaks into Miskatonic University to steal the Necronomicon. Unfortunately, Wilbur runs afoul of the university's guard dog, who completely wrecks him, and upon finding the dying Wilbur, the horrible truth is revealed. He looks really nasty. Specifically, the only human parts of him are his face and hands. His chest and back are scaly, and below the waist he goes completely bonkers, covered in coarse black fur, with weird mouth tentacles hanging from his waist, eyeballs on his hips, a tailed trunk thing, and crazy hoof pad feet. Wilbur dies muttering something about Yog-Sothoth, and his body completely disintegrates, showing the horrified onlookers that apparently he had no bones. Anyway, everyone's super creeped out already, but then the night of September 9th, about a month after shit goes down in Miskatonic University, shit goes sideways in Dunwich, as whatever was growing in the Whately house got too big and too hungry free
no
to stay
one
put
thought
and
to
is
look
now
in the house
rampaging
when
around
he
town.
died.
And it's also invisible, which certainly doesn't make
Oh.
things easier.
Oh
on
my
anyone.
God.
Back at
Okay.
Miskatonic University, Armitage and the other professors have been trying to decrypt Wilbur's diary and figure out what the heck is going on with the monster he keeps talking about, when they learn via an innocuous newspaper article that it's broken loose. So they march over to Dunwich to find that the rampaging monster has crushed and eaten at least one family house and seems to spend its days lurking in the glen while going out to feed at night. A quick headcount suggests that the local cops went down to the glen to bother it and got eaten, but the professors are much better prepared. Armitage has some Latin spells, Rice has a bug sprayer full of magic not being invisible anymore juice, and Morgan just brought a really big gun. That night nothing happens, but the next day the monster eats another farmhouse and Armitage rallies the dudes to go after it. When they see it moving on the hillside, Armitage and the other professors break off from their crew of terrified villagers who observe the goings-on through a telescope. The one unlucky guy with the telescope gets to see the de-invisible monster and immediately, but descriptively, panics and starts yelling out adjectives. Anyway, as they watch, they see the professors head for the stone circle and yell something in
snap.
Latin, and the monster responds by shrieking a lot about Yogg-Sothoth in a very
Oh
much
my
non-English
gosh.
language before transitioning to English to scream for help before it gets struck by lightning and disappears. The professors return and broadly explain that the monster couldn't really exist in normal reality since it was half Yogg-Sothoth, so they magicked it into not really existing anymore.
What?
Anyway, Mr. I looked through the telescope and saw the face of madness starts yelling that the monster had a huge face and it looked like the Whateleys, and yeah, the big plot twist is the giant blob monster was Wilbur's twin brother, though he looked a lot more like his old man.
I think that's enough stories for today.
Yes, I
was
think
pretty
we'll
cool.
leave it there, right? Interesting, I
Yes.
guess.
I'm not reading any of those. Maybe that last one.
I don't think I'll be able to get through any of them. Because the problem with it, the way, especially the way she's describing it, is that in the actual books, the way it's
Seems
written
very
isn't very,
Hidden.
yeah,
not very
and
hidden,
isn't
yeah.
very coherent.
Yeah. Doesn't
So
build much suspense either.
yeah,
Like,
so,
we know there's something in that.
like I just probably read it to like a point, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I know.
Yeah.
Or I just read it and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really feeling the story.
Yeah,
This main character is so dumb.
Yeah.
But listening to them like with her telling it, she makes it really engaging. So you know, it's pretty fun.
Congratulations to those who read it, because you're better people than us, apparently.
Yeah,
We-
and apparently you have nothing better to do.
That's some shots.
Everybody go.
Everybody going that.
Anyway, guys, we
Thank
hope you
you.
enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I know we did.
It's been Unorthodox Reactions.
Cold.
It's been another Unorthodox Reaction.
Cool.
We are... Oh, no, wait.
Like,
Just-
comment, subscribe, notification bell, all the good stuff, and don't forget comments, reaction suggestions below.
If you're still here with us, we appreciate you. If you're no longer watching, we still appreciate you. Thank you for checking in, and see you guys next time.
And we'll see you all in the next one.
Peace.
In a bit.